I'm Gary Anthony Ramsay with your Our News Now Rewind. Stories making headlines for the week ending October 16, 2010. Our top stories include: the president and the Democratic Party try to rally the African American vote in front of the midterm elections. Young voters grill Barack Obama during a town hall meeting sponsored by MTV. Controversial head of the D.C. schools quits. Nelson Mandela's memoirs hits international bookshelves. Whoopi Goldberg walks out on Bill O'Reilly on the set of The View. And two legendary singers pass away. Our top story: Barack Obama is in full campaign mode as he and the vice president crisscross the country trying to rally support before the midterm elections, which are just a few weeks away. In his message to communities of color, unions, and young voters, he tells them to make history again. The president's rallies in several states are accompanied by an ad campaign that attempts to convince those groups they have much to lose if they don't go to the polls to vote.
We cannot sit this one out.
The campaigning seeks to offset the president's dismal approval rating and millions of dollars raised for Republicans across the country via Tea Party groups. In the state of Nevada alone, the GOP candidate has raised more than $14 million in just the last 3 months. Well, one of Barack Obama's midterm target groups peppered the president with questions during a town hall-style meeting sponsored by MTV. The young people gathered in Washington to hear why they should or shouldn't support his policies for the remainder of his term and beyond.
Why should we still support you going forward with your monetary and economic policies? And if the economy does not improve over the next 2 years, why should we vote you back in?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in there, so let me try to unpack that.
Republican leaders described the town hall meeting as a staged event. Well, U.S. bank stocks dipped as the government continues to look into allegations as to whether those U.S. banks engaged in fraudulent behavior in pushing hundreds of thousands of foreclosures through. Several major U.S. banks have stopped foreclosure procedures in 23 states pending reviews. J.P. Morgan has stopped in all 50 states. Stocks dipped on average for the banks 4% last week. Despite its stock woes, J.P. Morgan saw its quarterly profit jump by 23%. The controversial head of public schools in the District of Columbia has quit just weeks after her boss loses his re-election bid. Michelle Rhee announced her resignation, ending her bumpy ride as school's chancellor. During her tenure, Rhee clashed with unions, fired teachers, and even closed some schools. She firmly believed in test scores as the best measure for judging student performance. Washington was routinely at the bottom of national city rankings.
And here in D.C., thousands of residents believe, like I do, that the future of our school system has never been brighter.
I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into the children of the District of Columbia for the last 3.5 years, and I have completely enjoyed every minute of it.
Rhee became chancellor in 2007 and has now started a website, a Facebook, and Twitter page that will announce her next move. In Atlanta, Bishop Eddie Long faces yet another lawsuit. This one doesn't involve sex, but rather charges the pastor with defaulting on a $1.9 million property loan. The suit claims that Long and his business partners arranged to buy a gym in 2007, but have since not made payments. Long is being sued by 4 young men who say the pastor used his influence over them to coerce them into sex acts while on church-sponsored retreats. Through his lawyer, Long denies those and the latest allegations. Also in Atlanta, rapper T.I. and the police are once again together at a commotion, but this time the performer helps the cops talk down a potential suicide jumper. The rapper, who served a year in prison on weapons charges and who was arrested in L.A. last month on drug charges, says he was compelled to go to the scene when he heard about the man atop an Atlanta building threatening to jump off. On CNN, he denied allegations of a publicity stunt.
I didn't know this guy. I didn't wake up in the morning and say, hey, let me find a way to go and save someone's life so I can, you know, be looked at favorably.
The troubled man, who has not been identified, is now under mandatory medical supervision. Well, if you have enough cash and desire, you could own a gold medal from the 1968 Olympics in Mexico. It was won by an athlete who put on one of the most memorable political demonstrations in Olympic history. Tommy Smith, who raised his gloved hand in the air during the national anthem, is putting his medal on the auction block. The gold medalist, who won the 200-meter dash, was later banned from international competition after the event he staged with bronze medal winner John Carlos. The opening bid for the auction, which closes on November 4th, is $250,000. In your Our News Now World Wrap, the long-awaited memoir of one of the most famous people in the world hits international book stands. Nelson Mandela's Conversations with Myself gives readers a look at the man behind the legend. The book, which is available in 20 languages, is a collection of personal letters and journal entries. It describes many of his struggles and anguishes during his life, including the 27 years he spent imprisoned by South Africa's apartheid government. Mandela, who's now 92, served 5 years as South Africa's president after the country's first all-race election held in 1992. He has cut back on public appearances since the World Cup in South Africa, during which his granddaughter was killed in a car accident. The head of one of Nigeria's largest television stations is now suing that government over what he describes as a malicious attempt to ruin his life. Raymond Dukpesi says he was falsely arrested on charges connected to the bombing last month that killed a dozen people. The owner of the African Independent Television Network was eventually released by police after being held for a week. Dukpesi is campaign manager for former Nigerian dictator Ibrahim Babangida, who is the leading opposition candidate running against current President Goodluck Jonathan. In Chile, 33 men who were trapped in a mine shaft for more than 2 months are now breathing fresh air after they were all rescued. One by one, they emerged from the hole that was more than 1.5 miles underground in an ordeal that some have described as miraculous. Most of the workers who've been trapped since the August 5th collapse of the shaft will spend some time in the hospital before going home to their families. Now movie and book deals await. They've already been given money and gifts. One industrialist who was moved by their story has offered all of the miners a free trip with their families to the Greek Isles. And that's your World Wrap. In entertainment news, Whoopi Goldberg walks off the set of The View after an exchange with Fox News talk show host Bill O'Reilly. The comedian and other View hosts were discussing O'Reilly's objections to the building of a mosque near Ground Zero.
Muslims killed us on 9/11. Oh my God! That is. Muslims didn't kill us on 9/11? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, extremists
What religion were they in?
What religion was Mr. McVeigh? Mr. McVeigh was an extremist as well, and he killed people.
70% of the country.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here. I don't. I'm outraged by that statement.
You're outraged about Muslims killing us on 9/11.
Eventually, Goldberg and co-host Joy Behar returned to the set after O'Reilly tempered his statement, but he and Goldberg continued with more words after the segment was over. Two voices that brought joy and reverence to the ears of millions are silenced.
Lord, keep my body.
She was a gospel legend who sang with Shirley Caesar and James Cleveland. Albertina Walker passed away this week from respiratory failure. Walker was part of the Caravans in the 50s and 60s, but struck out on her own in the 1970s. She recorded more than 70 solo albums and won a Grammy in 1994 for Best Live Album. Albertina Walker was 81. Solomon Burke also passed away after suffering an apparent heart attack while on tour in the Netherlands. Burke belted out the classics Cry to Me, Tonight's the Night, and the Dirty Dancing hit If You Need Me.
Are you with me? All you gotta do is call.
Burke was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001 and won a Grammy in 2002 for Best Contemporary Blues Album. Solomon Burke was 70. For a complete look at any of the stories you've seen on The Rewind, remember as always, go to the bottom of the webpage, find the link of the story you'd like to see, and click your way through. That's your Our News Now Rewind for this week. I'm Gary Anthony Ramsay.
I said if you want me, all you gotta do is send for me. Please don't wait too long.